Oh, look at this. Kona Jake, well, not Jake the Snake, but it is a Jake cyclocross aluminum bike. These are pretty awesome little rides. Hey, let's review and have a better look at the Jake, not the Snake, Kona.
Welcome to I Know a Guy Bicycles.
Welcome to I Know a Guy Bicycles, hanging out with the guy. Hi, I'm Justin the guy. Obviously, I have a garage shop. Taking scary how to use bikes one bike at a time.
If you like these videos, please like and subscribe.
Welcome back to I Know a Guy Bicycles, hanging out with the guy. Hey, I'm Justin the guy on this old bike series. What we got behind me is a Kona Jake, not the Snake. Don't get that confused. Anywho, Kona does have Jake the Snake line, and for some reason this is just the Jake, which is probably just a little bit lower end version of the model of a cyclocross bike. Cyclocross. What is cyclocross? Cyclocross is actually a race that started back in the turn of the century, or a little beforehand, because road cyclists are crazy, and in the fall they'd keep racing, and when they started getting frostbite, they wouldn't stop. So preventing losing of digits and fingers and so forth, race organizers back then decided to make a event where they have to get off their bike and run to warm back up and get back on their bike and ride. Fast forward today, 100 years later, that's a cyclocross race. Well, the cyclocross bike has been around since then and actually has been reframed as the gravel bike. Well, cyclocross gravel, kind of the same, a little bit of geometry differences between the two, but the overall experience and the ability to go off-road-ish, dirt roads, single track, moderately, is there. So let's check out this gym and go through the process of what's going to cost, right? Check it out. Kona is actually a fun little line. Its base company is, I think, Bellingham, Washington State. They have cool names about. It's more of like it's more of a smaller niche line. In addition to, I worked in a shop that was a Trek dealer, and they're only allowed to have at the time, I don't know, like 13% or 8% of the floor space for another brand. Kona was the other brand that they carried, which was kind of cool. I mean, they had one model called the ice cream truck. How can you not like a bike line that doesn't have, it has a model called the ice cream truck? And they have Jake the Snake, and a few other ones are cool and fun. It was kind of like just, let's make the fun in bikes. Yeah, they're made overseas, right? Like all bikes, and they're probably close to like a Fuji frame. I've never really seen any spectacular like tech specs in the sense of like, oh, this is the frame of frames of all mother frames, like Trek and Specialized always try to pronounce or produce. Jake or the Kona brand is more like, hey, let's have some fun. The cycling is supposed to be fun, right? So they did a lot of bikes. Most of them were more streamlined into the mountain bike or recreational. They did have a couple roads, including the cyclocross here. So this is a pretty cool little gym. Cyclocross, what that makes it, it's basically a wider tire like the gravel bikes of today. Clearance tolerances, so you can go a little bit wider. The gravel bikes now can go even wider than that because they have disc brakes and they're designed for that. This is kind of like your happy medium. You get like 35, maybe a 40. These have 35s on right now, so you might be able to get a 40 width tire on there. Be kind of comfy and good, and they're all 700C wheels. Also, the wheels are designed to be a little more beefier to sustain that more off-road kind of riding. And the frame geometry in the cyclocross, the bottom rack's a little bit higher. The cable routing is not on top, not below, because you can pick up the bike. This is the whole concept behind it. But at the end of the day, what a cyclocross bike translates is a great all-around gravel bike, which I've been riding cyclocross bikes for decades now. I think my first one was the Trek OX1, then I had a Fuji Cross, and now I'm currently on a Le Mans Pop Rod Steel. Not known to be super light. I mean, mine's pretty light for a cyclocross bike, but it's really just the experience of fun and how it feels, and kind of like an off-roadish kind of ride experience. In addition to, you can use it for road and so forth. What people have done today is they've bought a newer style gravel bike, and they'll get two wheel sets, one that has gravel tires on it and one has road, and they just swap them out when they're doing whatever kind of riding it's going to be for the day. Same kind of concept you could do here. A lot of the tires on the cyclocross are kind of a both, all around, not great off-road, not great on-road, but a great compromise. That's kind of like where the hybrids have always been, and this particular one's pretty decent. Reviewing the Kona Jake here, you got aluminum frame. This is 7005 series. That's been around for decades. It's pretty decent. This is a little bit newer, I would say. 2010-ish, has the Tagger componentry on it. And the wheels are, let's see, you got a Tagger rear hub and a no-name front, where that's pretty common. It'll start swapping out parts where people won't notice. It does have a FSA crankset on front, which is not a Shimano mix, but it's still okay. Triple on that. I think I did check on this one. The chain I will have to replace. The tire is kind of bald on the back, so I got a set of tires here already for it. So what I'm going to be putting into this bike is, yeah, that's pretty stretch. A chain, tire, cables and housing probably throughout. I'll have to double check that front derailleur. These have known of failing. I have a bucket of them, about 5 or 6. I showed a video before of the Tagger fail. Pardon the interruption, there is more. More, you say? Push the more button. Push it. Push it. I dare you to push it. Once you push that button, you get more details about the video you are watching, in addition to all the tools that I use in the shop, as well as suggestion for improving your ride. In addition to help me provide advocacy in the cycling community, also links to other social media accounts as well as my website to find the products I actually sell and other insights in the industry. Other videos linked below. Extend your cycling experience here on YouTube. And now back to your original programming. And the wheels, they did seem pretty true. The story behind this was bought from the original owner. It's the wife's bike. She rode it for a while and didn't put terribly a lot of miles on it. Then they upgraded it to more of a traditional gravel or maybe electric assist. I can't remember which one. But they did upgrade, and when they upgraded, this one got shelved. I mean, yeah, it got used because I can tell by the tire tread's been worn down. But knobby tires like this, you see on the front, there's pretty good level of tread, and on the back here it's balled out. So what this tells me, it's two things happened. Also, I think a train, well, no, it's not a trainer skewer. So you can see how this is balled out. Mostly pavement. You know, pavement will eat up those knobs pretty quick, kind of like your off-road tires on your Jeep. If you have snow tires, they'll wear out if you're just driving around with no snow around. Same kind of concept on these tires. So that feels pretty smooth, not too bad. So yeah, with tread and tires, I'm going to put a little more of a lower profile on this one, because most people, when they do get a cyclocross style bike, it's mainly for, you know, opportunity to do dirt roads and so forth. So you want a little tread on there, but they're not going to want a lot of aggressive, and all that is going to do is wear out, just like this, which I do have some, but on this particular one, I'm going to put more of a lower profile, nicer level tire. I think those are specialized kind of cross style tire there. So I'm going to take this cassette off. And with the chain being stretched, like always, I'm going to have to test ride this pretty diligently on each gear to see if any of these cogs have been compromised. I'm not sure where my basket went to. And then I'll clean this up. But the wheels did look pretty true. Check the front hub on this one. It feels fairly smooth. But yeah, when I do the little more detailed cleaning of the wheels and truing, that's when we're going to get a little more into it kind of thing. So let's see if this has a quick link. I don't think it does. Looks like a Shimano style chain when they have the pin only. So there we'll have to use the chain tool. And I'll be only keeping the chain for measurement's sake. There we go. Get this released. Yeah, haha, it's free. All right. And what I'm going to do is just kind of dive into this and get a little more closer inspection. Gonna trim all the cables. Trying to figure out. And you got to be careful. This one I don't want to cut This is actually a bridge cable. I want to do the regular brake cable. So if I cut that bridge cable kind of up a creek, because those are kind of hard to come by. I mean, you can get them, but then I'll have to order something because I don't have it in stock. I'm not going to. And the cables, of course. This has external cabling, so I don't have to worry about internal cable routing, which is nice. I will keep the housing bits for measurement as well. And also we'll keep the brakes separate from front and back and do them separately in the ultrasonic cleaner, just to keep the the adjustments and everything correctly the same on these. And looking for my Y wrench. So yeah, these are pretty decent aluminum frames, very versatile, solid. They're fairly fast because it's aluminum. Integra is pretty decent componentry. It's a step above, but you can see right there, there's a lot of caked up gunk I need to get off the rear derailleur, which I'll need to scrape off. Also, I'll take the derailleur jockey pulleys apart and give those a good look through. What I just want to do is just get to the basic bike frame so I can make sure there's no compromised bits. And what I've seen so far on this one is just, I would say, garage wear, like, you know, side scuffs, that kind of thing. Nothing that really translates to maybe a little bit of scuffage there, but nothing major like a crash. As you'll see it on the rear derailleur, like a lot of mash scrapes, but there's, I mean, a little bit, but nothing like this is really ridden too hard and not dumped down one side or other, crashed. Okay, so you see this band clamp here. They didn't put spacers behind it, so this bottle cage is bent around it, which is a pretty big boo-boo, which basically compromises the cage, really. It just makes it flare out and kind of makes it difficult. The spacers, yeah, a lot of the companies will have their own spacers in there, but what you really could use to bump this cage out is a pretty quick mechanic fix. So, you know, with these guys, you know, on the Presta valve, it's called a little grommet, and you'll have extra ones of these if you have a Presta valve bike. Reason being, when you fix a flat, you get an extra one of these. What you could do is take these little guys and on the cage here, so you have that bolt, right? The bolt goes through and you need to bump that out so it goes over that band clamp, right? So you just put that as a spacer. Boom. Done. Solved. Quick little hack fix. Seen them on a lot of bikes. Really not, you know, you're not going to be looked down to, you know, like, oh, you're not using the proper spacer, aluminum spacer or whatever. Yeah, whatever. As long as it works, and that protects the cage, because the cage is going to be a little bent around that, and then it's a little bit easier to take it off. And this one has a little pump mount, and that's why these bottle cages. So when you put on a pump mount, you want to make sure you have enough material, enough threads to thread into the frame. If these are too short, you need to get longer bolts. Reason being is you don't want those little boogers stripping out, because it will not strip out the bolt, because this is hardened steel versus kind of like an alloy pinned grommet in there to hold the threads. And that booger strips out. You'll have to cut it out and have it retap or new one put in. Or sometimes retapping it will work, but not all the time. So what we're going to expect is this front derailleur. This little booger might be problematic. We'll take a look. So on the springs on these bad boys, where the spring mounts, get a little close up. So there's spring pressure right here, right? That's what pulls the derailleur back. And what I found on some of these, this little tab has compromised and broke off. And I caught a couple, so I could see hairline cracks. So this one so far, as its initial look, it seems like it's not compromised. Looks like it's intact. I mean, I know some of these are fine because I've seen a few of them. They work just fine. But I think like the year before, they're like, oh, we're getting some failure rates. We better beef that up a little. After I put an ultrasonic cleaner, it'll be really cleaned up and I'll be able to inspect it a little bit better. But for right now, actually, I'm pleasantly surprised I'm not seeing hairline cracks. Because I did see a few hairline cracks before, and whoo! When they bust, all of a sudden you have a floppy. And all you're doing is taking your screws and tightening it down both sides to hold that trailer cage in one gear. All of a sudden you had a 18 speed, I think this is 9 on the back, or a 24 speed, or a 27 speed, and then all of a sudden you have a 9 speed. Yeah, I gotta count those gears and see how many. I think there is 9. Yeah, that's 9 speed. So anyway, so that is actually a win. I'll have to buy or replace that guy. And now I need to get this crank off. This is a through axle type thing. So the pinch bolts are on this side, on the non-drive side. So I'll take these off. Screw that out so it loosens up. And I can see a lot of dirt buildup over here already. See if I can get that adjuster. Oop. There we go. Adjuster bolt off. So I got that guy right there. Put that back. Not sure if these are loosened up enough. So there's 2 bolts. So if you get them both completely loose, this crank arm is not going to come off, which is good because you don't want it to fall off while you're riding, right? So we're back off, loosen up. Come on, you know you want to come off. And this one has bigger teeth than versus the Shimano counterpart. I'll have to tap that. A little love tap. Just enough. Not hard. Just a little bit to slide it out. You can see all that gunk and dirt, but you can see how big the teeth are on this particular one. So it's very specific to this. And same concept, just slides out. Be mindful of any spacers that might come off. This is when we inspect that bottom bracket cartridge. You want it to be smooth. Yep, feels smooth, we're good. And I'm going to take the cable guide off so I can get a good cleaning of the frame. Looks like it was pretty decent thick paint, so might be fun to get some detailing of it. Get some of these scratches out. Dirt, I mean it's been ridden, you know, like bikes are supposed to be, right? But what I'm seeing here so far is nothing too scary. These are brake posts, so you have, this is not a V-brake, they're like cantilever, like the cyclocross version, so a little bit wider, more like a TP, so you get more leverage than your old school cantilevers. This is from Core brand, pretty popular for the age, so nothing too tricky about that. So those are your Core cantilevers. Brake pads have a little bit of life still to them. File them down, see if they're okay. But these will kind of fall apart. That's another reason I want to kind of keep them together. So when I clean them, I'm not getting parts mixed up. So be mindful of that if you take yours off. This also has 3 different pin points on the frame, and keep note of which one that is. And this one's in the middle. Most of them are in the middle of the pin points of the brake, but once in a while you'll have either a weak or too strong brake and you'll have to adjust that to a different pin position, but not too often. All right, now I'm going to do the fronts. Will give you a little more of a perspective. Same concept, 3 different pins on this guy. Got a little bit of reflection. Ooh, kind of blinding me, so I move that. There we go. Whoa! Whoop-ah! Stepping on tubes. So, same thing. I want to try to keep it all together. And these brake posts are supposed to have a good layer of grease on them, but whatever the case may be, they're dried out. These are more exposed, so when it gets washed, that grease sometimes get washed out as well. So put a couple drops of Tri-Flow on there. That'll kind of keep the pivot clean and lubed so it doesn't bind up and your brakes will be more efficient. Okay, I'm gonna keep track of that. Make sure when I replace it. So these have like their brake boss or brake cable stop here. So you want to make sure. Also, if you adjust your headset, it has also a binder bolt on it. So you have to loosen that as well if you're going to adjust the headset. Believe me, many times. Also, what's really cool about this, it has the cheater brakes. These are usually for a lot of cyclocross, but I like these for recreational riding. Just gives you another hand position and brake. So you don't have to come all the way down here to do your braking. So for recreational riding, it's really nice and pleasant, that kind of thing. So let's give this guy a little wash using the Purple Power. Mixed half water, half Purple Power. Get it from Walmart or Amazon. You can find links below in the description. And this is where kind of give it its first initial inspection clean. Kind of like that inspection clean. Without choking on it. Oh, I got a little fumes in my. This is where you'll kind of get all that layer of dirt off. And some shops will have a shower kind of thing or a spray area where they can wash off a lot of this. A lot of my stuff is not that dirty. It's like I don't do a lot of mountain bike type things, so usually just doing this works just as good. Or you can use muck off spray, which you're just paying for the name. Honestly, this does just as good, if not better. And there's a lot of brands out there, a lot of personal brands. If you like muck off, that's great. You know, it's like whatever. Not dogging it. It's just I found this is just works really well for me and what I do. This has a pretty white banner there. This is from Full Cycles. I got a sticker on here, and also has a frame sticker size, so that makes it a little bit nice to not have to go down the rabbit hole of geometrygeeks.com and try to figure out what size of bike this is. This way it's easier to identify. Another thing that's really interesting on this one is it has a mount here for a disc brake on the fork, but not on the frame. So, I mean, this is OEM fork, definitely looks like it. The stickers, you know, match and all that, but they didn't put a mount here unless they have their own custom bolt mount that goes in here. But I don't know, I don't remember seeing anything like that. But older days on some of the older mountain bikes, frames have that, which as a teaser, I have a Klein full suspension that I'll be working on here that has that adapter, not the piece, but it has the adapter option if you ever wanted to do that fork, but it has the V-brakes on there. Kind of like awkward teenage years of mountain bikes, I would call it, you know, where, you know, like you make a frame that can adapt to it, but you're not quite there. Anywho, versatility. Or they'll have one model that had discs and one not. Now all mountain bikes are pretty much all discs. Road 2. Or get rid of the cantilever and V-brakes on a lot of stuff. Which is kind of sad, like end of an era, but it is what it is. I'm not going to protest it too much. It just gives opportunities for smaller parts manufacturers to come up with some cool stuff. Anywho. Well, so far, so good. No cracks, no major dings. Just a few scuffs here and there. Paint, I think, will come out pretty red, you know, fire engine red. Gotta like that. See it coming. See a couple little scuffages right here. And I'd suggest using Clean Streak from White Lightning. I use carb cleaner. But you want to be very careful. This will take off discoloring decals, but this is the great way of getting off some of those little stubborn dirty spots, like from paint or what have you, and to see if it's actually damaged. And you can kind of see, if you can see, it just comes right off some of those dirt areas. So I do kind of a spot cleaning, like super industrial spot cleaning, to get some of that stuff off, to determine if it's actually a chip or it's just some paint rubbage from the garage. And that will, a lot of it will come off too from the buffing, but this kind of makes it a little less stubborn. But then I know what areas to kind of focus on. Also, this stuff is really good at getting those sticker goo off. When you pull the sticker off, like the frame sticker, and you get that goo point off, or somebody went crazy, like a college kid, and stickered the heck out of their frame, and you need to clean it up. That worked really well. Also, I had one bike, a Trek 1.2 Pilot. You can look it up, a video. Somebody spray painted the whole bike. This took off all the spray paint, which was amazing. The frame was immaculate underneath. So, anywho, I think we got a gold nugget here. Yeah, it is a gem. Bar tape, cables, housing, hooks look intact, chain, new tires. If this is you, if you bought this bike, it definitely would have needed a tune-up, and these parts need to be replaced. But with what we're seeing right now, to be at its peak performance, I would say maybe around $200 in parts. It would probably cost you. The type of tune-up this would run you is around between 150 to 250, depending what packages are available in your neck of the woods. But that's where you're probably looking at as in lift, about closer to 300 to 400-ish. Some of the stuff you can probably do yourself, like the tires. You could have easily thrown that on yourself. Bar wrap, I mean, if you know or watch a video, go ahead and attempt it for sure. And yeah, the cables and housing, it's a little more technical kind of thing, but could it run without it? Yeah. But there's some pretty good dirt on this. I would really suggest getting it cleaned up. And chain installation, yes, it could be done by yourself. It's not that hard of a lift. Just matching up to another one, but it's always good to have a clean drivetrain to put that new chain on. So that's another tricky bit there. If you know how to do all that stuff, great, more power to you. If not, there's bike shops like us around to help you out to get through that process. I always encourage people to try stuff on their own. What's the worst thing that can happen? Well, it doesn't work out, then you have to take it to the shop. Anyway, you may have learned some aspects of some things you can do yourself, and then you learn like, oh, we should probably let this go to the professionals kind of thing. But anywho, also based on time. Some people just don't have time. I don't have time to do a lot of other different things, so I let professional services do those. Anywho, we will clean this up and review the parts and see if I found any other little scary bits out there. Then we'll do a revealing of the frame being detailed and a conclusion after this. Check out the clean parts. Right now they're dirty. Oh, better roll my sleeves. Get into it. So here we have the parts. The rear derailleur taken apart, all cleaned and ready to be reassembled. Everything cleaned up really well. Obviously I'm getting a new chain. That actual front derailleur is actually fine. After cleaning it and checking that tab, it definitely looks like a better casting than the ones I've seen that failed. And the crankset, pretty decent. And the wheels, well, they actually chewed up really well and cleaned up. So those are in good shape. And after the polishing, we got a pretty clean, shiny bike here, ready to be reassembled. Actually, it turned out really well. So yeah, let's review. As you can tell, I'm dressed a little bit differently, therefore it took a couple days to get around to finishing this one between different interim events, but we finally got to the finish line here where I'll be reassembling this morning and finishing it up. Nothing really major came out of this in the sense that catastrophically anyway. The frame actually turned out really well, super shiny. I was pretty happy how that ceramic coating and the finishing lap actually made it pop. The wheels are pretty good. The tires did have to be replaced. These are the old tires. They're kind of not being bowled out, but I did have some specialized tires, which are a little more lower profile. Those are what, 733Cs, which gives you that equivalent of cyclocross gravel bike feel, and also a little bit smoother tread for if it's mostly on pavement, which is a win there. So this bike is going to be pretty awesome. It does have a triple, which most cyclocross bikes have a double. So with that triple chainring on there, that actually gives you the extra gear to do some climbing and so forth. Save the front derailleurs, right? Shifting is going to be pretty good on this. I'm going to relace it with new cables and housing. That just makes the shifting and braking a lot better. In addition to a new chain, that's going to help with that. I'll have to test that cassette because that chain, remember, that chain was pretty stretched. So I'm going to have to like really on the test ride grind each one of those gears, put a lot of pressure on it, see if I can get it to skip. If not, you probably can get away with another cassette or another chain through the whole cycle, and then pretty much when you get a used bike, you're going to have to look at that lift of replacing a chain. If it needs to be replaced right away, that cassette is going to be soon to follow. So there's a tidbit there. But other parts and that wear points are, tires, obviously I switched that out, and brake pads. Brake pads actually look pretty good. They just need to be cleaned up. In addition to the shifting is actually turned out really well. So with the new cables and housing, with new tires and a new chain, this bike is going to be really pretty close to this peak performance. And quite honestly, sometimes when you do a tune-up and replace some of these parts, sometimes you actually build the bike up better than it was before when it was new. Not all cases, but sometimes you do get through that level. Just a side note, because a new bike is thrown together, thrown on the floor, and out it goes. Sometimes it doesn't get that follow-up tune-up. From most shops that do provide that, in addition to that full good dive into good high level mechanic strip down of the bike and rebuild it, sometimes that gives you the best performance. Back in the history, side note, there was a shop in Boulder back in the 90s, and their thing was every new bike, they were discouraged and didn't feel very good about the builds coming out of a brand new box bike. They stripped it down. They would take the crankset out, redo the bearings, put their business card inside, and slam it all back together. They'd repack the hubs. It was pretty crazy, the extra mile that they did to each one of their bikes, even the lower end ones back in the 90s. Obviously, I don't think they lasted because of that particular detail, but hey, that's good for them for trying. But anywho, this is going to be one excellent bike for somebody. It is a little shorter guy. It's a 47 centimeters, so it's going to be a shorter individual riding this. But hey, with a little triple with the treater brakes and all the little benefits to it, it's going to be a spectacular ride. And actually, this turned out to be pretty clean. It can almost pass as a good gift anyway, that kind of thing as well. Anywho, let's just stop from listening to me talk and let's just check out these beautiful pictures in the sun. This.